Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless coming at you today with another video. Now there's no doubt that gear storage for me is kind of like the unsung hero of my channel. Gear storage is absolutely instrumental in my ability to keep things organized, keep things safe and clean, and just be able to find them when I need them. And that's equally, if not more important when it comes down to firearms storage. So today we're going to take a look at this stack-on gun cabinet. At this point, I've gotten it home, brought it in. I got this completely set up. Now it does take some assembly, so today I go through the full assembly and I set this up for my needs. A couple of talking points, a couple of different decision points, and a couple of little modifications that I needed to make to this in order for this to work effectively for me. So again, today what we're going to do, I'm going to set this up, I'm going to take you through all of that, but with that said, I have a whole bunch to do and a whole bunch to share with you, and if you're interested in seeing a little bit more about what I'm about to get into, do me a favor, stay tuned. And so now, as we get into the GCM 1918 DX 18 gun security cabinet from Stack-On. This here is just an awesome addition to my storage abilities, especially for my firearms. Now this is one of those products that you probably should have maybe 2 people helping put it together, helping carry it around. But if you're stubborn like me, well, you can definitely do it with one person. This is what I would put in the classification of more awkward than it is heavy. This is certainly something that you can take on by yourself if you really want to get it done. So that's exactly what I opted to do. And here you can see getting everything into place. Now this again is an 18 gun security cabinet. It does have a couple of different configurations that you can go with. So depending on your needs, it is configurable. This has the ability to store up to 18 long guns, or what they're saying, 9 long guns and 2 steel shelves for the storage of ammunition, supplies, and other valuables, which you'll see that's what I opted to do. This also has molded barrel rests, which work very well, and they include a scoped rifle standoff set, which also I did use, and they do seem to work very well. This also has a 3-point locking system and welded steel construction to help keep firearms and valuables safe and secure. So all in all, this is an excellent option for me. Now, I was basically working out of a number of different toolboxes to store all of my firearms and firearm supplies. This is definitely an upgrade, and I got this exact size so it would fit the appropriate size in my home and in my office and studio space. You'll notice that this does leverage keys that are coded, so that's another thing worth noting. Now when I got this, the door was a little bit jacked off to the side. You'll notice on the inside there's a little pin that you depress. This is not actually a deficiency. It just happened to be that in storage the door popped off, or maybe it wasn't seated all the way when they put it in the box. Not a big deal, but you'll notice that little depression. Now I did have to actually sand down the plastic part of that a little bit to get the door to fit when I finally assembled it at the very end, but not a big deal. Inside, you'll notice all the parts that you need stored inside. Now, there is the need to assemble this. It does not come fully assembled. So you're going to be a little bit busy putting everything together. It took me about an hour all in to get everything put together the way I needed. And you'll notice that there were some modifications that I eventually do have to make. Inside here are all the shelving, very nicely coated. Everything seems to be very well made for the most part. Now this is fairly cheap, all things considered, but I do think that overall the construction is sound. I do think that overall this does seem to work fairly well for my needs, and it's a nice sized cabinet all in all. This is really made from a reasonable gauge, fairly thin gauge steel, but at the same time it does do exactly what I need. Now you will need to pay attention to the size of the holes. The holes do kind of dictate what gets screwed into and bolted into certain areas. There's some larger screw holes and some smaller screw holes. Of course, you're threading into plastic, so you don't want to over tighten. That actually works out okay. And the screws on the backside do sit fairly flat. Now inside you can see as I put this together, coming together very nicely with the interior baffle. You do need to screw this together both on top and on the bottom. So you can see here the way the shelves are supposed to come together, going in underneath the flange of the upright divider. But at this point, I've bolted it loosely into the bottom on this divider. All my bolts still fairly loose. But unfortunately up here you can see that this flange needs to go underneath the rest. So what I need to do is flip this whole thing up, loosen up the screw in the back side of this, get that tucked in and underneath, then tighten that back down. So a little bit of a pain in the neck, but not too big of a deal. Just a little strange that these screws are literally the lowest piece. Like there's nothing to stand this off on the floor. So I'm going to put some felt in the corners. I feel like the felt will at least stand this off of the floor a little bit. So very simple, and that should do what I need it to. So now at this point, everything came together very, very nicely. All the shelves in place. I have them spaced out the way I want. There's a couple different ways you could go about it. You can actually space these just a couple of different ways. Now you can also put the actual sort of, gun stay on the inside here. But the one thing I can tell you is this is literally useless for me at its current height. If you take a look here, this is a Ruger PC carbine, and everything I have is about that same height. And yeah, the stand is nowhere useful for me. So to point out the fact that this is really for long rifles, and this cabinet I am using for more carbine-sized firearms. So what I'm going to do is actually mark some holes further down, and I'm going to have to drill this out and get these stays down below. So that's my next step. So you'll notice that there are holes for one of the shelves. I've basically made a straight line parallel to those. My first mark, which is the same distance as the row above it, so this is the actual stay above it, I'm bringing it down to here. That's 1 3/4 inch back from this corner, and then 9 7/8 inches between the two. I'm going to tap a little bit on there with a punch just to get a little set. Then I'm going to drill a small pilot, and then I'm going to go to my final hole size, which that is too big. You just got to be careful. It's really a smaller hole, so you got to pay attention to the size of your bit. Which now you can see my new holes. My advice, just go really, really slow. Let the drill bit just go super, super slow. It'll cut right through. If you go too fast, you will harden the steel, and it'll make it much more difficult. So all in all, now I'm in good shape, and I can get that stay mounted on the inside. And now you can see a vast improvement. So that's going to work out much better for me. Now, of course, I could also put the second one in the back. I don't think I need that right now, so I'm just going to hold off. But at this point, this is coming together nicely. And the last piece worth mentioning, this is basically an adapter that goes on the actual stay, so that if you have firearms with scopes, it will step the firearm off of the wall of the cabinet and buy you the space that you need. Now you simply put a screw through the hole and then thread it in here. Very simple, but the one thing I can tell you is you definitely need a screwdriver that's a short-handled screwdriver. Otherwise, you're in conflict with the divider. And once you get it in there, it will get stuck. Let me ask you, how do you think I figured that out? Well, I figured it out the hard way. I did manage to get the screwdriver out, but pay attention to the length, because once you get that in there, it's actually very difficult to get a full-length screwdriver back out. But this you can see much more appropriate. That literally fitting perfect inside there. Everything very, very nicely spaced out. So that's going to work out nice. I'm very happy with this. It took me about an hour, but well worth it. Now, because this is steel construction, the nice thing is you can leverage magnetized shelving. So you'll see here I did get a couple of different shelves that are magnetized. Now, as I go and continue to work on my layout and on my overall storage solution, I will pretty much be getting other units. But at this point, you can see I have taken advantage of the fact that because this is the, I would say, just general steel construction in a couple of key locations, and you'll see as I shine the light around, now I can get my firearms in strategic locations. This is kind of temporary. Again, I'm going to get some additional magnetized shelving and organizers and just lay it out differently. But you can see I just kind of started to get some things in place. And the other thing that's going to be great is the ability to leverage the entire I'd say inside of the door here. So I'm going to basically be able to lay this all out. There's plenty of room when the door closes to buy me the space that I need, and this is just going to work out fantastic. So taking advantage of magnetized shelving and organizers will absolutely be key. And so, all right, guys, there you have it, the stack-on gun cabinet. Absolutely awesome and sort of a work in progress. And as I mentioned, a few different modifications that have gone into this, and I'm going to continue to build upon this with other magnetized accessories. I think that's the part that really has me drawn to my ability to subdivide this more, get it a little more effective for my particular needs, my firearms, my ammo, my accessories, all the different things that I need to manage in here. And I can make this in some ways denser and denser with more and more gear as time goes on. As long as I'm careful and I pay attention to some of the subtle details, my ability to effectively get things in and out of here without clashing, and then just keeping things very tidy, which I like. So I love this. It has really enhanced at this point my ability to manage my firearms, not just effectively, but more importantly, safely. Now, of course, there are some additional things that I could have done that really would have taken this to the next level. I do need to think about lagging this down. I mean, that's another part of it, but at the same time, I don't think I'm completely worried about that. I have this locked in my house, locked in my room, locked in the safe. I mean, at that point, you know, I'm in pretty good shape. I mean, things are triple locked, and I, have other security measures working in my favor and in my advantage. So all in all, very, very good. So the stack-on gun cabinet, I like it. And so, all right, guys, there you have it. A look at the stack-on gun cabinet. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you very much for following along. And if you like this content, do me a favor, take a look at my Outer Limitless channel, which is more on my primary gear. On that channel, I cover everything from hiking, camping, and backpacking excursions, all the gear that goes with it. So from sleep systems, shelter systems, knives, axes, backpacks, flashlights, you name it, that's my Outer Limitless YouTube channel. So all right, guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope you like what you saw. I hope you found it a little bit informative. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.